Hello everybody, welcome to you. Alan Robson with you. This is the Ghost Historian, and tonight we're in a place that even most of the people who live here have absolutely no idea why this place is called what it's called. Heard an awful lot of stories about it belonged to this man, it belonged to that man. The truth of the name of this place where we are right now goes all the way back to a woman who was a pagan, who was converted to Christianity, and she decided to put her hand in her pocket and fund, or help fund, an incredible abbey, priory, monastery, and her name was Hextilda. Not a name you come across every day, but this became known as Hextilda's town, Hextilda's ham, Hexham. We're in Hexham, and as you can see by looking up at the street, ancient, medieval, and cracking. But before we get started, I want to introduce you to somebody. We have a special guest with us tonight. Paul, come on in. Now, this guy, in my head, I've kind of called BB for the longest time because it's bushy beard, but also he happens to be the Boffin's brother. So BB works. So one of our most ardent of followers. You seem to know our shows more than we do, in fact.
Well, yeah, I mean, my wife Sheena and I we've watched everything that you've ever done, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here tonight.
Bless you. Well, thank you very much. We're going to have a cracking time. Now, for those of you that went to the Hard Rock Cafe, you'll have seen this man dancing away on stage, and because all of our gear went down for half an hour, and the only difference in what we do is him, he's already getting the blame. But anyway,
gotta blame somebody. Let's
rock on. What we're going to do tonight, mind, in fairness, we're going to take you on the Walk of Death. If you've never heard about the Walk of Death, and this is something that goes back here in Hexham to 1904, the Christmas of 1904 to 1905. It's going to be happening tonight, and we're going to take that walk. But let's make a start, Tony. Head up. As you can see, small, narrow streets like you would expect in any medieval town from back in the day. And the thing that makes this particular street interesting is that every 50 yards or so, there's something else that just... We're doing a Grisly trail of Hexham. Come on, Tony, let's do it. We will follow you, follow your lead. We're at the bottom of a place called Hallstale Bank. Now, back in the day, Hexham used to be considered one of the worst places in the world to live. It was filled with slums, it was filled with people that were ne'er-do-wells, vagabonds and rogues, and now it's on the edge of poshy, I would have said. Hexham, you, posh?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, you've seen some of the cars going past tonight. And
yeah, they're well heeled.
Yes, they certainly are.
So the world has changed a little bit, but as you get up here, you can look, if you look to your right, Tony, and up, you will see 1888. Amazing. And then if you look directly in the opposite side, you'll see here, 1880. The Methodist Ranters, 30 years on Bull Bank. That was 30 years on Bull Bank in 1830. Now, the Methodist Ranters were a really weird kind of group of people, because out of all of the religions, they were called primitive Methodists, and the primitive Methodists allowed women to preach, which caused hell in the secular society, because none of the other churches actually wanted it to happen. So if you add that to Hexham of old, especially medieval Hexham, this whole place nobody wanted to come to. They'd be robbed, they'd be raped, they'd be murdered. And people used a phrase, like we would say, something, since I've met you today, something I've thought about a dozen times, the phrase, go to hell with you, and that kind of thing. Back in the day, they used to say, Gander Hexham. Oh, Gander Hexham, to Hexham with you, because they considered Hexham to be hell, even though even the buildings here, and some of the buildings we'll be seeing higher up, were all connected to religion. So I'm taking you to hell tonight. This gate, stop at this gate. Look down the little back area. There's next to nothing there. However, these primitive Methodists, evangelists, God botherers, some people would say, but in Victorian times, there's a story of this bank. Now, Tony, come to me, mate. This bank, particularly steep, and one of the games that kids used to play in Victorian times was they would get a metal hoop, the inside of a wheel, and they'd get themselves a stick. I don't think you're quite old enough to have ever had to do this, but you would get a stick and you'd have a metal hoop, and you'd find a hill like this, and you'd start rolling the hoop with a stick and try and build the hoop up to as fast a speed as you possibly could. Well, a young lad called Harry Hooper in the 1880s was doing that down this bank. Now, back then it's one way now, cars coming down. But back in the day, for carriages, they used to come both ways. And you can imagine the size of a carriage. There was probably just enough room between the two buildings for you to be able to get down. Well, Harry Hooper, now the thing that makes this most ironic is he's playing with a hoop and his name's Harry Hooper. Harry Hooper got crushed by a carriage here, right here, and the people in the carriage looked around, looked to see if anybody was looking out the window, came down, got a hold of Harry Hooper and tucked him down an alley. Now, the only alley I can see is that one, because I don't see any other alleys. So Harry's body was just dumped, and he's said to still walk up and down this hill. So wherever you go, there's another story. And this is all kind of on the back of the evangelists and all of the primitive Methodists that used to live and work and play along this area. Look at this. I think if you're looking at houses, Tony, you see the old beautiful houses with a fantastic old-fashioned, but look up, everywhere you look, there's history here. Look up the hills, look directly above you to the left-hand side, Tony. The Ranters Chapel, no less. 1830, where the Ranters, those primitive Methodists, Jacobean buildings, and also, I don't know whether you can see, but you can see part of old Hexham Castle walls. Do you see it, Tony?
Yeah. All right, yeah.
Now, it's said that if you get up close to those walls, you can still see where there's musket balls, arrows, and cannonball marks. So, just look at this place, amazing. Up the other side, up here, Tony, I don't think it's amazing because it's in all directions. Up here, what a busy bank that is. I didn't realise how busy it was. Up this area, you used to have the hovels, the slums, the not proper houses, like almost tent cities, so to speak. Old tatty hovels made out of wood. And also, on one of the photograph shops, there's some photographs of ancient Victorian habnabs. But from there, you go instantly from hovels here, and they built them on this bank so that the wee and the poo could run down. So technically, we're in the middle of the full flow. And if all of the slums, this is another reason why this place was hell, because the dirt, the muck, the mire. And yet just around the corner, you've got idiot drivers, and you also have glorious buildings and the rich and the wealthy, and also a place that you'd be put if you committed any crimes. We've got countless ghost stories, but we've got a lot to do, so let's rock through. I love this because you instantly get a flavour of ye old Hexham just by still bits of castle wall. I don't know whether you can still see, but look at this. This is the real deal, isn't it? Now, whenever you get a gate like this, you actually need dong, 2 torches. Oh, Tony, come on. Look at this. See the old rounded roof?
Reminds me of buttons. Dear me.
Just if ever you were wondering about the history of this place, I mean, it's just amazing. I love all the unique specialty kind of shops, but this building here is a famous one too. This is called, it's actually a club, and it used to be a Masonic organisation, the Albert and Edward Club. And what you've got to look out for is the stained glass windows on the top floor, because they're pretty special. They've got scenes upon them, and also, do you see the decals here with the Masonic symbols on them?
Oh, yes, yes.
Now, back in the day, just watching for more cars coming, look at this. Back in the day, you have to remember, we're in a place where a lot of poor people would have been, and they would see a building like that. I mean, look at the size of, first of all, the size of it's got here 1884 carved on it. People would see this and they would say, well, they had aspirations. I come from a poor part of the northeast, the West End of Newcastle, roughy tufties, robbers and unpleasant people, 5%, and 95% of people that just want to do better for themselves. And they would come and they'd see that, and they'd aspire to be a Freemason. They'd want to be a Freemason. Now, you can have your own views about the Masons. Not anything that I've ever chosen for myself. My dad was very much against them, but my Uncle Jack was like in charge of his lodge, so I went with my dad. However, everybody wanted to be a Mason, and why? Because first of all, they had buildings like that, and you could go in and you could get free drinks and free food and take part in ceremonies. And the king was a Freemason. The kings of Europe were Freemasons. So you would aspire to that, and all the way along the side of this building, they're still there. Ghosts were shy of them, but I'm taking you to a place where there's a cracking story. Now, this phone box here, it's incredibly famous. Apparently, it's been in a lot of films and a lot of similar things, but you've got to remember that this area here particularly used to be a Saxon village, which is great, and oh, can you believe it? They've actually... What? But anyway, they're redoing the shambles, which is the internal. Oh, we're going up here, Tony. We'll come to that later. Oh, that's a disappointment. They've done that just to spoil it for us. But it won't, because we've got 1,000 other places to go. We'll come to this in a second. We're looking at this building now, which is Old Hexham Jail, Hexham Prison, built by stones stolen from Roman Corbridge. It was built originally in 1333, and it was originally put together to be a prison for border reivers who used to raid through Hexham, plaguing farms. In the 1550s, dozens of prisoners and guards here died of the plague because of their close proximity to one another. Young women debtors were put into here in cells with men. So you can't imagine what they went through at all. It was used for holding prisoners before trial. And the prison itself claims that there is a spectral hunchback. They also say that they hear strange cries and moans. Now, it's interesting because the very first time I came here was about 11 o'clock at night in November, and it was black as coal. And when we were walking along here, we heard a young child cry. And we all kind of looked thinking, well, any children in the houses would be abed. Mm-hmm. Did it come from there? Well, I don't know. But there's a great story of a proper full-bodied apparition that's been seen by hundreds of people, not at the front of Old Hexham Jail, round the back. But as you can see, if you can imagine these windows without any glass in, and you're freezing your bones off, and the rain's getting in, and the snow's blowing in, and there's nothing you can do about it. And there's two birds. There's a male bird chasing after a female bird with lust in his eyes up here. But no, it's round here. I don't know whether we can get in. If we can, that'll be tremendous. Oh, we can. Yes, we can. Tremendous. Right, there's the jail. Tony, have a wander, mate. Because this is where there's one of the cracking ghost stories. Now, in 1553, oh, there's bins and stuff.
Open.
Oh, it's open as well, right, I see. Oh, that's a shame.
Is it? Someone's garden?
It looks like it could possibly be that. But apparently, immediately behind, we don't want to cause any problems to anybody. I love the fact that all of this looks original as well. All of this woodwork up the top. But the story of, in 1553, something very rare happened. One of the border reivers was set free. Now, I couldn't find a reason why this reiver was set free, because most of them would die in prison. They wouldn't let them out. And there was a particular batch of names: Charlton, Milburn, Robson and Dodds. They were the four families that plagued Hexham. And anybody that was caught of those names reiving would be here and probably till their death. But this one reiver, Matty Dodds, got released. And it's thought that the reivers, after all the money they'd stolen from Hexham people, came back and said, well, we'll give you some money back if you let our Matty out. I think that's what, because I can't think of any other reason why you would release somebody that's robbed, raped, murdered, you know. So they released Matty out the back, and he came out the back door, which says an awful lot, because they didn't want to say, well, we're releasing prisoners. So they released Matty. He got 3 paces into the fresh air, fell to the ground and died. They'd beaten him, tortured him, effed him up, really. I mean, there's no nice way of putting it. They'd messed him up, and they said, right, we've got your money. Here's Matty. On the floor, dead. And since then, because of that betrayal, Matty's spirit's said to walk around this particular part of the prison. Now, I don't know whether that fits in with the story from the prison of the Hunchback. Because if you'd been tortured and beaten, you probably would be bent double.
Well, you would.
I would have thought.
You would be running at the back door.
But what a place, and amazing stories in all directions. And we're heading now, the ghost's been seen apparently from 1954 to 1978. And Tony's already ahead of us, so let's catch him up. The building on your left-hand side that we walked past before, the great big one, that's where we're going next. Hexham Old Jail. And are you listening out to hear the sounds of the moans and the wails? Now, you see where this is Hexham Old Jail, but the building we're going to next was also a prison for a while. Most people don't know that, but Moot Hall, this building here, was also a prison for a while. It's been a lot of things, mind. And also there's a particular window we're going to show you that I think you'll get a kick out of. It was a gatehouse to the great fortress that Hexham once was. It was a prison. In World War II, the fire watch station was on the very roof of it, where they'd watch out for German planes. There's a story about this as well that I found. A bailiff arrested a girl on her wedding day because he wanted to marry her. So he arrested her on her wedding day to stop her getting married. And we don't know whether she ended up marrying the bailiff or marrying the man that she was set to marry, but it's said that she was placed in the top tower room. Now, there is one right at the very, do you see that little narrow? Yeah. There's just a single slit with a metal bar on it. And that's apparently where she was held. Now, I've heard two versions of the story, and to be quite honest, I don't know which one's true. One of them is that she married her, she was freed because the family kicked off, and she married the man that she loved. And the other one was she stayed in there until she agreed to marry the bailiff. Now, there's a third version of the story which is less savoury. Either way, she ended up getting married to somebody, and to be honest, we don't really know who it was. But the third version I heard was she died in there because she refused to marry the bailiff. In my experience of women, you cannot make a woman do something that she doesn't want to do, so I've got a sneaky suspicion she quite possibly died up there. That's just one of the amazing stories that we've heard. But let's get a little bit closer to this place first of all, because I think the whole thing is amazing. Ghost activity, yes, they've had plenty. On the stairs, beside the door, faces appearing at the windows, so when you're looking up at the windows, keep a close eye on it. You never know whether we'll be lucky enough to spot something. These stairs, apparently, there's an image of a woman walking down here with a long gown. Could it be a wedding gown? Who knows, but it kind of, when you've heard the story, you kind of think, well, really, could that just be, she's in a dress, she was arrested in a wedding dress. Now, it wouldn't be what we perceive as a wedding dress because it was back in the day, but it would be probably the nicest dress she had. And just maybe, you never know. And then we come through here, which gives you a proper flavour. And I just wish all the bollards and the bits and pieces weren't here, because this is ye olde Hexham right here. And you can imagine a carriage coming through here, or a man on a horse maybe, and it would open up into this beautiful vista, which is normally beautiful, because it would come out to the shambles. And I'm coming around here because one of the great Hexham stories happened here. What a shame. This is just such a shame. Get over it. Come here and film this, Tony. But you see the cannonballs?
Yes.
In this marketplace, about 50 people, 51 people in fact, were killed during a violent protest against conscription for the county militia. Now, at a time in our history where in the United States of America you've got troops being sent into towns which you would have thought unheard of or impossible any time over the last 10 years, what happened here was an amazing thing. The people here gathered, and it was all complaining about the militia. So the militia were called out, and the militia stood there watching people literally getting in their faces, I mean right up close. So the militia were told, charge your weapons. So they're standing there trying to intimidate by loading their long muskets. And then they held them up to the crowd. And the crowd thinking, well, they're not going to shoot. They shot 51 people dead. And the militia henceforth were known as the Hexham Butchers. But looking back here, look at it. Yes, there are marks here of where there obviously was a platform or something built. They look like stones to support something. Maybe a gallows, because we know people were executed in this main square. I'll tell you the stories of them later. But if you look up, you will see these things here look like they're possibly maybe where staircases were or are inside. I'm not sure, because this has always been the outside, so I'm not sure what that is. But we're told that some of these, not all of them by any stretch, cannonballs, for heaven's sake. And who looks, who looks at an old building and say, oh, there's a cannonball hole? And I would have thought these here, they're not level by any stretch, these things. Fantastic.
That seems to give the appearance of I guess I might be too steep for a roof, but you know, sort of something's been butted onto it, and
Maybe
on the
edge,
side.
possibly.
the side here.
But it wasn't stone, whatever was put there. But
that's the same height there.
yeah, it's possible. But what a place. I mean, the fact that it's the majority of it's still here is tremendous. Now, over there, this bit, and you can show them it, Tony, 'cause, just so that we can explain. The shambles are covered in market here in the main square since 1766. And I have to show you the pant, which is this thing here in the middle. Tony, get up as close as you can to that. Let everybody see it. And it says on here, and this is on my notes, my copious notes, it says, make sure you read the bottom of the pant. Well, I'm going to have a job with that. But this pant was dedicated, and a fountain, to William Angus Templey, who was a rich Methodist and a corn merchant. But also, see again? Can I?
There.
Oh, hang on. I might have to light it up though, because, oh, I see. It's beautiful poetry. Can I? Oh, hang on. O you who drink my cooling waters clear, in solitary places, calm and slow, forget not the far hills from whence they flow, where pipes and flow halls, where over fell and moorland year by year, beneath open sky, my waters spring, summer, autumn, winter, come and go, beneath the clear sky, welding fair and sweet, with showerings and rain and storm and snow, a draught of coolness for your thirst, where over the green bents forever blow, a sound coolness, the busy street, the four free winds of heaven where time falls, Wilfred Nelson Gibson. And that was the poet. So there you go. We got 95% of it. However, we're going around the corner because there's a story about the Forum, which just happens to be tipped around here. There it is. It's now a Wetherspoons, which I suppose you could argue being a bit of a sadness for a building that's got the history that this place has. So let's get a little bit closer. It's open, so technically we could go in there. This used to be called the Gem Palace Cinema back in the day, and there's a ghost story attached with it. It's an Art Deco building, you can see that. Beautiful, because I'm a bit of a fan of Art Deco. I'm not particularly into architecture, but Art Deco, is... no, absolutely. And you can imagine people coming down here in the 1920s and 30s to have a shimmy. And they had their own orchestra, they had their own organist. Reg Dixon is a name that my parents used to mention from Blackpool Tower. But they had an organist that would support the old films before they had sound. But the story is it that a tale from 1912, that one of the old cleaners in the building died in the building and has haunted the place ever since. Who knows? But there's the Forum. Beautiful, beautiful building. And then you come down here, not the prettiest alley, and I have to admit, especially today, but you get to see stuff like this. Tiny little alleyways that lead down to the riverside where scallywags and cut purses would be able to run. And there's several little alleyways hidden here in Hexham where you would see this kind of thing happening. Now, we're technically behind the business end of the street, but we're here for a reason. First of all, Pudding Mews, new name, and yet I was told that there was an ancient soup kitchen here in Victorian times before all of this was built. Pudding Mews is new, so it doesn't have any historic, it's a lovely name, but apparently an old Victorian soup kitchen used to be here down this particular street. And then because this is Back Row is what this is called, and everywhere you look it's history, you know, even just the buildings here. You've got to take pleasure from stuff like this because it is beautiful. Then you come round the corner, you see more of those little alleys that beetle down the hillside all the way down to the river, where if you were trying to rob somebody, you would get away from the town centre as soon as you can. And also you have to remember Viking longships down there, people coming up the hill with the big beards and a hornier hat.
Oh, yes.
No horny hat here. We're leaving horny at home. but here, what does that say?
Blood and fire.
Absolutely, because this is the Salvation Army, Tony. And we're just waiting till he gets by. Oh, I see what he's doing, right. Traffic jam. Yeah. Can I trust them? That's because Paul is one. So the Salvation Army. Now, William Booth, a lot of people believe, was actually ripping off the money that was donated to the Salvation Army. Now, I've always had a bit of a question mark. I'm not knocking, if you're a Salvationist, love and blessings to you, absolutely 100%. Not knocking your faith or your religion or all of your good works, because I do know for a fact, I used to be a torchbearer back in the day, but only because the girls that used to go to torchbearers were beautiful. And I went out with one who drank more cans of tartan than anybody. She only went out with me once, and it was only provided I bought her a 6-pack of tartan. Did I get a kiss? Did I get a cuddle? No, I didn't even get a... You know, there's a pathway where you do the cuddle, then you do the handhold, then you do the kissy, then you do... Nah. Didn't even get the kissy. But she drank all me tartan.
Needed more cans of tartan.
And I think I needed at least another 6-pack there. I should have gone that way. However, Salvationists, be true to yourself, absolutely. William Booth may have ripped you off. Two things that I have a problem with. The Salvation Army, although they dress it up in beautiful literature, are not a fan of homosexuality. And I'm sorry, but I'm fully and absolutely on the side of the LGBTQ community, 100%. I am immersed in the binary finery. And they don't dig it, they don't like it, they play it down, they don't want any, they're family oriented. And hey, you got to respect them for that. The main reason that I've got a kind of a thing about the Salvation Army is what they did. The Salvation Army went to Australia and they went to New Zealand, and they had food, and they were happy to give it to Aborigines and the Maoris, but only if they became Christians. So if you don't become a Christian, you starve to death. That's a tad shady. But in fairness, all over the world, every Christian organisation have either tried to transform people from their ancient traditional values to Christian values. And the more down the line you get, Christian values have been watered down to a point now where talk to anybody about Catholic priests, and you know, it just gets into a myriad of misfortune. But anyway, the Sallies should never have done that back in the day. They should have just helped people first and then and set the example. And then if people wanted to change, fair dues. But give people a choice. Anyway, we're down here, Market Street. Why? Because they had some of the best leather in the world in Hexham. And this, I know that there's Market Square there. Perfect. Oh, we love a bell. We do love a bell. But there were market stalls down here for the longest time. Now, if you look up, I think it might even be this building, Tony. I know they've put new windows in and stuff, but these narrow medieval streets, King Henry III granted its very first market down here, but this building here, and I'm sure it's this building, what's it called? Robinson Gay. Right. Well, down here, there used to be a shop belonging to a painter and decorator. And the family name was Churgwin. And according to the stories that we've been told, when Frederick Churgwin died, handing the shop across to his son, to me, I don't understand why a painter and decorator would have a shop, because you don't particularly need a shop. But he had a shop, and it was here on Market Street. And when Frederick died and passed it to his son, who I think was also an F Churgwin, I don't know what the F stood for, he haunted the building. He haunted the building because the son had completely changed the shop and gutted it, and he was selling fruit and veg and other stuff. So the Churgwins, old Churgwin, was not happy about it and kicked off a bit of a fuss until Churgwin Jr. changed the building back to being old style, like his dad had it. So that's the story. So let's keep going down. The next one is right next door, Tony. It's the heart of Northumberland, just here. Now, I've tried to find a really juicy story about this building without success. Now, I was told, oh, that's haunted, and I've not been able to find a single story of any kind, but they say it was haunted. From a medieval point of view, though, this place is fabulous because it's not a million miles away from how it was back in the day. I know they've duded up some of the buildings here, and I don't know about you, but I think Hexham tonight has been busier than it is most days when I've been here during the day. It's just bizarre. I do remember as a child coming down here and visiting these kind of antique shops, because some of them, and no disrespect, but some of them were inexpensive enough for even relatively poor tatpots to buy stuff. I think they've boosted the price of all of this stuff up, and to be honest, you could argue this is the stuff your granny used to have on a mantelpiece, all this kind of stuff, and a silver skull mask, which is random. But we're here mainly, if you look at this, just little bits. There's history to do with that. Look at the roof, Tony. How old it is. Amazing. Incredible. But we're looking down here at Hexham House, which is this. And you come around the corner and you'll see a beautiful archway.
Oh, that's nice. Wow.
Absolutely. Wilfred's arch. We're going to go up, I think, the next one. There's a similar arch down here, but this is the grounds of Hexham House. We're going in there, Tony, in this one briefly, but we're coming out again, and then we're just going down to there and then along. So dive in. This is said to be haunted by a piper, no less. Apparently one of the fallen Scots that used to attack this place haunts this area of Hexham. And Hexham House has incredible stories attached to it. But the main building here, Tony, haunted by a maid who was often seen walking through these gardens. She was badly used, apparently, by the hall's owner and was about to reveal all. And rich folks, because we're talking about this bit here too at the moment, she was about to reveal all about the shady habnabs, that the married man was messing with the young chambermaid, and suddenly she disappeared. Was she bought off? Was she killed? Well, we don't know, but it's interesting that she just decides, I'm gonna tell everybody, and then suddenly she wasn't there anymore. People with money have a way of making things happen, whether she's tied up and put on a coach and is untied in Edinburgh, or who knows. But the fact is, she's still here. Now, the fact that her ghost was seen within a year of that makes me think she maybe wasn't tied up. She was maybe placed in the ground somewhere. I don't know whether it's here. But why else would she still walk this area? Now, it's said that she walks, the place that she's said to walk is down here, directly opposite the main door. there's the bottom of a slope. Now, I've not been here before, but that to me is the bottom of a slope. And we're getting midges. Tony, you have a cure for midges. What is it that you use?
Skin so soft.
Skin so soft.
I haven't used it this year yet.
Do you know the weird thing about potions and stuff? I once went on holiday to like a really hot place, and I was on the beach, and you see all these blokes that have got arms wider than me thighs, you know, layering on the Ambre Solaire. And there was me with me bottle of tender places and baby faces. It's not the same. It's not the same. But down here, this is obviously the place where you tend to see her. So Tony, I'd like you to go down first, because if there's anything to see, I want you to see her. Down we go. A chambermaid badly used to such a degree that she feels the need for her spirit to stay here, to remain in one spot, hiding in nooks and crannies. Is there any sign of her?
That's not picking Tony up, but there was something human form there.
Paul's just spotted something on your phone. Is that like a ghost detection kind of device?
That's SLS.
SLS, all right. There was a figure right here.
It was right here in front, because Tony's over there.
Yeah,
you
that's
see where Tony is.
Yeah, he's on the screen.
Um,
Let's move it around. Let's see if there's anything else kicking around. It looks benign up here, and yet you saw that full figure there.
just straight away here, literally here,
Brilliant.
because it was head, shoulders. It was
A full figure.
Yeah.
So Paul's managed to grab an SL. That's very cool. Tony's now in the darker area, and let's face it, it does sound like down there's the perfect place. Look at him, he's right in the middle of the woodland now. Why don't you go down and follow him, Paul? Yeah. And if you catch anything, show Tony on the way down, so catch what you can. Now go for it. You've got it recorded, absolutely. Paul's heading your way, Tony, so just get ready for it. A girl who tragically disappeared. And the ghost has been seen, maybe as recently as a couple of minutes ago, if Paul's SLS worked out. But the other recent sighting of the maid down here in this very area was in 2020. So we're not talking like ancient history here. She's been seen since. Just had the strangest little clicky noise there. Don't know whether anybody caught it. Who would know that this was here? You know, if you could live in Hexham and not know any of this. Anything, Paul?
No, I haven't seen anything else, but we definitely saw something there.
You definitely got something earlier. Look at this. Now, when you see things like this, this is a mystery. I've got no reason why you'd have these huge slabs. But look up at the building again. What else do you think that was used for? Any idea, Paul? Hexham House? In the basement of Hexham House, there's a nuclear bunker. Oh, just heard a weird cry in the distance. It was very cool. Perfect timing as well. Beneath it, tunnels loaded full of provisions for civil defence. A politician back in the day called Leon Britton, don't know whether you recognise the name. Yeah. He organised it so that if there was nuclear conflagration during the time of the Cold War, that there'd be a place that everybody could scuttle. We'll all head to Hexham, into Hexham House, and we'll be safe. And we don't need to come out for several hundred years when everything kind of cooled off a bit. So a nuclear bunker with decontamination showers on ground that has a spirit of a young chambermaid, and beyond that has a ghostly piper from one of the Scottish clans that used to come down here and attack the buildings. If you listen late at night, and I know it's still incredibly late for this time of day, but I would love to hear a bagpipe. I love bagpipes anyway, but I'd love to hear one now. Absolutely, just a little trim. We're doing what is pretty much, and you would never think that this is the place for a decontamination centre, because it's just a beautiful piece of Hexham glamour, really. And it's on the doorstep of the town. There, of course, is the Priory. We'll be heading towards that with all of its secrets to regale very, very soon. Oh, hang on a second. You got something?
Just stood there, it came on, went off with adult size behind this chair here.
Uh-huh.
Just stood there, just as I turned round.
And it was there. So we're getting a little bit of SLS.
We're getting nibbles.
Absolutely, that's a start.
I believe that last figure was, because that bank there was raised up, I believe it was sat down, because I got from here.
There. So like sitting on the edge of the bank.
Yeah, because it was you know how it turns up. It was the head, the shoulders, the arms, the elbows, all the digits to about here. So I believe the rest of it was sitting down.
Maybe watching, wondering what are these stupid people doing? Well, we're telling the story of ancient Hexham, the walk of death, but we'll explain that a little bit later on, because technically that's what we're doing here. Black cat crossing your path. It's always a good thing. Absolutely. We're not of the sort who believe that cats are witches' familiars, nothing like that. Then you come down here, past the back end of Hexham House, which is this amazing building. They're building a lot of modern stuff around here as well, which is less wonderful, but the guts of the old building's still here. And we've just got to get past it and then cut along. You've got to remember that most of the stuff that we're doing here, I've plotted and planned, and there is the front door of the very building, Tony, there. It does have rather more a feel of a place that could be a government building with decontamination cells in the basement.
When you look at the back,
you would never think it,
no.
never think it at all. And yet, apparently enough room to hide 250 people with provisions to last them for up to 6 years in the ground directly below. See again?
Wonder who lives there?
I don't know, but they've got plenty of beans, I would have thought, and bottled water to avoid it. Coming down here, haven't got far, and then we're cutting along a ways. Now, was it this? Oh, little cubby holes here as well, which are lovely. And I think it's just around this corner, I hope. If not, we're going to have to go back. Let me jog down and make sure we're on the right track. No, Tony, sorry, mate, we've got to turn back. You know that arch that we were saying, how lovely it was?
Yes,
that's the arch we're looking for. It's St. Wilfred's. It's the arch of St. Wilfred. And it was the arch that the Vikings poured through when they came and flattened this city. So we're just a block away. But as I say, in all directions, we've got just some tremendous buildings. There you go. No, it's tremendous. Anyway, let's get up to that arch. nuclear bunker. When you're doing something like a ghost hunt, the last thing you expect is a nuclear bunker on your way around, especially in a building that has the kind of history and spookiness attached to it. This building on the opposite side has also got a few stories. This one here, not that one, that's too modern. This guy, Hadrian House, and there's stories that it was a boarding school, there's stories that the clergy lived there, but this is it, Cowgarth. And here we are, look at this. Beautiful arch. Now the Vikings poured through here, but just before we get there, you know, I mentioned Hadrian House. There's a story, oh hang on, I think that's it there. There's a little alleyway here next to Hadrian House. Just before we go up, oh, I'm so glad. Have a look down there, Tony. It doesn't look like all that much. But not just the ghost of that maid who was called Evelyn, the ghost of a Lance Corporal called Freddie Dobson, who was a Victoria Cross winner. He rescued 2 wounded men in heavy fire. One died as he brought the 2 of them back. He survived the war. He died in 1935, and he proposed to his wife on the steps of Hadrian's house. And a spirit of a man and woman walking down the alley at the side has been seen next to a shop called Pretty Flamingo. Now, I got that 8 months ago, that story. Man and a woman walking down the alley hand in hand. Could it be our Victoria Cross winner, Mr. Dobson? Again, you just would love to think so. Call up a guy, call a flamingo. Manfred Mann, 1960 odd. There you go. Great name for a shop. But imagine the Vikings are coming up from down there. There's no houses. It's just greenery to this settlement on the top of a hill. And the Vikings poured up this street, terrifying everybody as they went. Wilfred's Gateway. It was in 1160 that happened. So let's head up it, because we're going right the way through. 1160. They poured through the gate to destroy the cathedral. It was 875 AD, wiping out all men, carrying off women and children. And, well, there you go. This gatehouse on the site of part of Wilfred's great cathedral, destroyed by the Danes in 1821. It was built by the Austin canons who completed the priory, 1114 to 1140, and has a Norman trend. The gatehouse had an upper story used as the priory's residence, and almonry stood beside it. And here the Hexham canons, long noted for hospitality, used to care for the pilgrims and the poor. Lovely. But through this gate, and again, whenever I see trees, especially huge trees next to old buildings, you wonder what secrets the trees have to tell. What could they tell you about what they saw right here? The Vikings, they didn't do anything for nothing. They came all the way across from Scandinavia, along the river here in Hexham, long ships parking up by the side of the river, and charged into the town to grab whatever it is they could. Oh, that's interesting. I always love an open door. Oh, hello. No, Tony's got to do it first. Tony, you go first, in case it's dangerous.
Kisses.
Wow, look at this. How about this? Getting behind the arch. It makes you realise how big a building would have been here, because this arch was just part of a building. It wasn't just a thoroughfare like it's subsequently become.
What always amazes me with stuff like this is how it's still standing.
No, absolutely.
You know,
100%.
I mean, you're looking at it there, and I mean, you can still make out, you know,
all the
relief
arches are there.
on the columns, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling. I mean,
And I mean, it's to Hexham's credit as well. So, up here, to the most famous building in Hexham. That's where we're going, Tony, so up you come. Lead us the way. Now, just along here, if I'm in the right place, and I think that I am, you know, we mentioned that young girl, the maid. Her name was Evelyn. She was known as Eevee, and apparently she was lovely and kind, and she'd fallen in love with the man who was already married, who had everything that she didn't have, the building that we saw over yonder, or should I say over yonder. And we say that you see her walking across the grass, maybe on stairs like that in the corner, Tony. Don't know whether you can make it out. Hang on, I'll light it up for you, mate. But she's seen walking along green areas. She says she's very rarely seen on paths. But the one place that she is seen is up here. Now, I'm hoping there's a gate at the end of this. And if there is, we definitely have the right place. We have the right place. Oh, and it's open. Oh. This is the Lover's Gate. Apparently, Eevee, when she wanted to meet the man of the house, remembering his wife was there and his children were there and his staff were there, she used to come to the Lover's Gate, and she would come from the house up the path to the gate. Now, the gate, traditionally closed, and the man of the house had the key. So he would open the gate, let them out, and they would go down into the countryside, which apparently was down there. Looks built up now, but wasn't back in the day. And they would ravish one another. But this is the Lover's Gate. She's regularly seen here. So SLS your socks off around here. I would, because we're kind of around the back of the amazing Hexham Priory here, around the private car park. The fact that the gate's still open is a mind blower. Tremendous.